Why don't we keep our word to ourselves? Hello, friend, and welcome back to Couch Tales, the podcast where we dive into the funny and sometimes not so funny psychology of what makes us tick. I'm your host, Analia, and today we're tackling something we're all guilty of. Why don't we keep our word to ourselves? Picture this. It's Sunday evening, you're feeling motivated, inspired, ready to conquer the week ahead. You solemnly swear to your reflection in the bathroom mirror, tomorrow morning I will wake up at 5 a.m. to exercise. You set your alarm, lay out your workout clothes, and you go to bed feeling virtuous and committed. Fast forward to 5 a.m. Monday, your alarm goes off and you hit snooze faster than a cat runs from a cucumber. I'll definitely go tomorrow, you mumble as you pull the blanket over your head. But here's the weird thing. If you had promised a friend you'd meet them at 5 a.m., you would have dragged yourself out of bed. So why is it so easy to break promises we make to ourselves? I learned this lesson the hard way last month when I promised myself I'd finish writing this podcast episode 3 weeks early. Future Anna will be so grateful, I thought. Then future Anna became present Anna, who decided that watching 17 straight episodes of a baking show was clearly more important than keeping my promise to past Anna. Let me tell you about my friend Jake. Jake promised himself he'd stop procrastinating on his taxes. He wrote it down, he told his mom, he even set calendar reminders. Then April 14th rolled around and there was Jake surrounded by crumpled receipts at midnight. When I asked him why he waited until the last minute, again, he just shrugged and said, I don't know, I just didn't do it. So what's happening in our brains when we so easily abandon our self-commitments? From an evolutionary standpoint, our brains were designed for immediate threats and rewards, not long-term planning. Our cave-dwelling ancestors weren't setting quarterly goals or making New Year's resolutions. They were focused on immediate survival, like don't get eaten by that tiger was a more pressing concern than developing consistent meditation habits. The father of psychoanalysis might suggest that we have an internal battle between our primitive desires, what he called the id, and our rational self, the ego. When we break promises to ourselves, our primitive desires are essentially staging a coup against our rational plans. Modern thinkers, however, have identified something called temporal discounting, where we value immediate rewards more highly than future ones. That 15 extra minutes of sleep right now feels more valuable than the benefit of a workout that you'll only experience later. And behavioral research suggests that present bias, which is where we tend to give into immediate gratification at the expense of our long-term goals. It's why we eat the cookie when we've promised ourselves we'd eat healthier, or why we scroll social media when we've committed to reading more books. There's also fascinating research suggesting that we actually view our future selves as different people. UCLA researchers found that when people think about their future selves, the brain activates in a way similar to when they think about strangers. No wonder it's easy to break promises to this stranger who will deal with the consequences later. When you promise something to someone else, there are social consequences for breaking that promise. But when you break a promise to yourself, the only witness is you, and you're surprisingly forgiving of yourself. Research shows that creating accountability systems, breaking big goals into tiny steps, and connecting present actions to our core values can all help us become better promise keepers to ourselves. Some psychologists recommend treating yourself like a good friend. Would you accept the excuses you make to yourself if a friend made them? Would you speak to a friend the way you speak to yourself when you break a self-promise? And by the way, I have an episode that's called Why Negative Self-Talk and How to Fix It. Next time you make a promise to yourself, try imagining you're making that promise to someone you deeply respect. Your future self deserves the same level of commitment. And that's it for today's episode of Couch Tales, Why We Do What We Do. I'm your host, Analia. Until next time, friend, stay curious, stay kind, and maybe keep just one tiny promise to yourself today